Bastards, today I want to talk about cooking on a budget. Uh, there's several things that have led me to make this video. First thing was because of the war in the Ukraine. Uh, yeah, it seems like things like grain are going to be skyrocketing in price, and yeah, the price of bread will be very expensive in the coming years. Is what I think. And other factors like China, who is buying all the rice and grains and wheat that they can get. So those are all things that, yeah, that could factor in that food prices are rising up because of the economy, the pandemic, the wars. Yeah, it's not looking good. So the second thing that made me do this was there was how do you say this article in the papers, and it was about hunger children. Uh, this is not about children in developing countries who are hungry, but here in the West, in Belgium, children who go to school and do not have something to eat. That the parents don't give sandwiches or bread or something to for them to eat with them, and they are sitting hungry in classes. I find this appalling. Um, I find it appalling that parents in a nation like Belgium, even in the West, that people cannot feed their children every day. It's in my opinion, it's almost a crime that you cannot feed your children. That is a real failure of for parents, in my opinion. So that's why I make this video. How you can cook on a budget. It is not especially for survival situations, but it is in a way for more when there are economical problems like inflation. You lost your job. There is an economic crisis in your country, or something else like embargoes. How can you still feed yourself, your partner, your children, or even your neighbors and your family on a budget? What do I mean by that? How can you have the most? How can you get the most food and nutritions for the least amount of money? That is what I'm going to talk about today. For real survival situations, I would advise you to first of all look at my home preparedness videos about pantries and stocking up your food stockpile to as a preventive measurement. And in real survival situations, my video about rationing. So yeah, those are the things that are separate videos. So now I'm going to talk about cooking on a budget. Well, for if you are in money problems, or the food prices are very high, you have to tighten your belt. Well, then you cannot go to takeaway. You cannot just go to like things like McDonald's, and even junk foods will be very expensive. In a way, home cooked meals are very cheap. And why are they very cheap? Because you can buy basic food products, and in best case you can buy them in bulk, which make them much cheaper. It only costs more time to make, but time is another thing that we seem to have a shortage of for some reason in this world. So this is just for some things will may sound just plain simple, but I'm gonna do it anyways. The base of every meal is a food group that will account for your how do you say this, your calories, your energy intake. I'm not talking about the nutrition parts yet, but this is more about staple foods, some basic food groups. And how can you, like I said, one of the ways to make it cheap, get it cheap, is to buy it in bulk. So I'm going from step to step to what I've considered the most important things that you should get in your how do we say this? You're cooking on a budget. Well, like always, just a bag of rice. This is a 5 kilo bag rice. The prices went up. When I started with this, I bought them at 99 cents for 1 kilogram, and now it's 1.5 for every kilogram. So the food prices went up with 51 cents the kilo. So if you because I bought it in France as a preventive measures, I have now a lot of rice that are more cheap and rice in value. But rice is one of the best staple food groups that you can buy. It's nutritious. It has a lot of calories for the amount that you buy. It's easy to make. It has a long shelf life. Yeah, rice is one of the most important food items that you can get, and it's very cheap and you can buy it in bulk, like I said before. So with rice, you can do a lot, and you can make cheap meals out of it. Just to show you, this is 250 grams of rice that you can see. It doesn't look like much, but with this, as one person, I can eat three to even some. If I would have eaten something between 4 meals with it. So these are 4 meals that you can take if on the conditions that you eat everything. I'm not talking about eating and leaving only a handful in the tray because I'm kind of full. No, that's a bad mentality. You eat what you make. You make every calorie count. That's also an important mindset when you're cooking on a budget. So just something like this can make a lot of difference in your budget. A next thing that you can buy, it is oatmeal. Yeah, these are in small packages, but these are very, very cheap. And I would say this can make this is a great cheap food to make and will make you fill. What you can do is, if you do not have milk, this is one of those powdered milks that I bought years ago, and it's still fine. So that is something when milk is too expensive and you have in your stockpile milk powder, powdered milk. You can take it whenever you need it. You do not have to buy a whole bottle of milk, and yeah, because it gets sour after perhaps 3 days, you have to throw a lot of away, and that will cost money. So if you have powdered milk, you have oatmeal, you can make porridge, and that is a very nutritional breakfast and even meat. How do you say this? Dinner? No, not dinner. During the midday, your meal. So it's easy. Also, yet again, it's easy to make it, and it's very nutritious because of the milk and the oatmeal. So yeah, those are not only your calories but also your nutritions that you can get, and you can also mix it with other things. You can put. I will show you in the next later on, but things like peas, linsen, and other perhaps even pieces of meat and other herbs to get it more nutritional. So oatmeal and powdered milk are cheap to get if you buy them in bulk, and yeah, it's very nutritional. Some people will not like the taste of it, but we're talking about you can make it tasteful with herbs and other spices perhaps, and that can make such bland meals taste really good. But we're cooking on a budget right now. We're trying to feed your children, even though you're perhaps in debt or you cannot pay the you have to say scale on the rent or something. You don't have much money. This is what you're going to feed your children to keep them healthy and strong. All right, next. It is also one of those small packages, but it's something that you can just buy in bulk, or you can buy it very cheap in stores in bags, or at one of those stores without packaging. You can scoop the amount of dried beans. Dried beans is on all other staple food. It has a lot of proteins, and yeah, it has some good taste. So dried beans are something else, a staple food that you can get on a very cheap basis. Alright. Look at this bad boy. This is pasta. This is a bulk bag of 5 kilograms, and believe it or not, This was only 2 euros or something. So this amount of pasta, very cheap. You can make a lot of meals with it. You can fill it, and yeah, then you can have more money to use with the pasta to make herbs, spices, and other nutritious food items that you can mix with this. So yeah, if you buy in bulk, it's very cheap. I will not say that it's the most healthiest, but it's very cheap, nutritional, and it will get you through tough times. And that is what we're focusing on today. We are not trying to be the fitness person of the month. This is about getting by. This is about changing the mindset to get through. This is about feeding your children in hard times. Next, yeah, yet again, this is just some regular pasta. It's cheaper in those big bags, but yeah, these are also nutritional and very cheap. You have more expensive pasta, but if you take the cheap ones, there is not much difference, and you have your calories. And yet again, as something I forgot to tell about the pasta, pasta also has a long shelf life. You can store it for 15 years if you store it correctly, just like the rice in a dry, cool, uh, dark place where nothing can grow in a vacuum packages. So that way it's also cheap, and you can store it for a long time when you buy it cheap and hard times come and the price is rising. That's something you can do also. Next thing is corn. If you noticed, corn in the store is like sometimes a euro and half for just a tin of corn. Yeah, you can buy those. It's very nutritional. Corn is nutritional, good calories. It's a staple food. It's cheap, but if you buy it in such small amount, you pay a lot for the packaging. So yet again, buy in bulk. You can buy big bags of corn, and it will be more cheaper because it's only a small plastic bag or something, or even a jute bag that you can put around it, or scoop it yourself and weigh it and buy it that way. Yeah, that's another good way. But just to show you, I do not recommend this to do this always, but when times are desperate, you can. This is just like farmers would know, a bag of corn. Yeah, it's not perhaps the highest quality of corn, but if you boil it, no parasites, bacteria, or other pathogens will survive in it if you cook it thoroughly. So be aware of that. This is very cheap. The amount, this bag, with this bag, I could have bought in the store only like 10 or 12 cans like this for the same price as I bought this. It's not perhaps the most, it doesn't look like the best thing to eat, but I'm talking about survival, getting by. So you have to sometimes to make sacrifices and get over that how do you say this, that entitled, that luxurious view of looking at things. The corn that is served is more graded for animals, but it can also be used for humans. But it's just because of those goggles that we have that, oh, that corn is bad, but the corn in the store is good. Yeah, there is, in my personal opinion, there's not much different between that. Corn is corn. Yeah, unless it's all fungi, all fungled up. But that's something you have to look at the moment. But that's something, the mindset is what I'm talking about, and it's very cheap. All right, the next thing, and it is yeah, not the last one, but this is a bag of flour. Yeah, because now the bread prices have risen up with like how much, 30% here in Belgium. Yeah, one loaf of bread that you buy is very much these days. So is it? Some people say it's now cheaper to buy to make your own bread, and in my opinion, yes. But how you make your bread can make a big difference in how you can account it in your lower budget. So it is 25 kilograms. With this bag, I can make a lot of bread. What do I mean by? We have to think about the concept of bread. I will take this off right now. It's 25 kilograms. It's very cheap for the amount of bread that I can make this. I can perhaps buy only like 10 breads in the store at a bakery. So yeah, it will take more time. It perhaps will make more how do you say this? Take more energy to make it. But yeah, time. Allee, if you are jobless in these difficult times, it's perhaps better to to make your own bread than to buy it at the stores. So that way, it's much more cheaper. And you can store this for a long time instead of if you buy a bread at the bakery in 3 days. If you eat 3 days of the same bread, it goes very stale and it will be more harder to eat and perhaps get a little bit funky if you store it not correctly. But with this, you can make your own bread. What I always do, not always, but what I often do is I just take flour, mix it with water to make just a dough, and I put some spices in it to make it more tasteful. Like I like to do some spicy herbs in it to make the give the bread some taste, oregano and other herbs that you can put in it. Uh, Sometimes even just some sugar that you can put in can make a bread make taste very good. And of course, don't forget there are two ways to make a bread actually. You can mix it with water, which is this is the cheapest way I will say. Mix it with water and just try to cook it. How do I explain this? You just take a pan and you make a flat bread and you cook it to both sides. You can use some things like honey. You can use cooking oils um, to bake the bread in a pan, which is more cheaper, and you can use the same fire to make other things in the same way. So what you get is a very flat piece of bread that you have, but the same thing would be this kind of bread, but it's all now compacted into a very small disc-like bread, like they do in certain countries, like a flat, yeah, of course, flatbreads like in India and South America. And yeah, you can take this and you can use it for to as additional to soup to get your calories in other meals. So it's a very cheap way to make bread. Just cook or bake in the oven or in a pan a flat bread, and it's very easy and quick to make actually. Yeah, but if you want a real bread, you have to also buy yeast. You can, yeah, buy yeast in big packages. To be honest, I prefer the small packages because these are the right amounts for just a person like with a small family. So then you have the if you know how to make bread, you can make bread yourself. Have this kind of bread that will rise with the yeast. So yeah, this way you can save a lot of money if you buy it in bulk and store it correctly, of course. All right, I think we're no wait. There are still two more staple foods I would say that are left, and that is if you can see, just potatoes. Potatoes can be if you just buy potatoes instead of buying processed potatoes or sliced potatoes or in any other way that you get from the stores. It will be cheaper if you just buy yourself a pack of potatoes, make them, clean them, take the skin off, and you can have hundreds of ways to variate your diet and your cooking on a budget without losing taste. But it's very cheap to make. You can try to make your own potatoes. Every potato that you make in your garden, even if you're in an apartment and you have one of those pots, flower pots, and you can get one potato bush out of it, that's one meal that you saved. So think about that's kind of the mindset you have. Every meal you save out is a meal that every meal that you make yourself is a meal that you saved out. For example, today I was planning to start to fertilize my ground to make them ready to sow for the next harvest to start a new harvest in my garden. And during the digging, I found uh, in one place this amount of potatoes that were still survived and are still edible. So, but yeah, so now I got a free meal to be if you look at it this way. So that yet again, cooking on a budget, you got to think on such ways. So last thing, canned meat. Yeah, this canned meat is not the real best meat. If you get meat from the butcher, it will be now very, very expensive. For a lot of people, they cannot pay it anymore. So perhaps you can sometimes more. It will be more as a treat. You can get some cheap meat from cans. You can get chicken, beef, or like in this case, fish. These were very cheap to get. This provides some proteins. If you mix them with some meals, you can take this, mix them into a meal for the family, and that way and your partner and your children can get some necessarily proteins to get through the days, and it will be contains the good fats. So yeah, some canned meat can be a good additional to your budget cooking. All right, now we get to the more nutritional parts. I would say these are not your staple foods, but these are meant to give you vitamins, your minerals. Uh, all right, some things I would say is, of course, salt is not a nutrition, but it's very important in cooking. You can buy salt very cheap. Always have it in your house. I would advise to buy it in bulk yet again, because it's cheaper than if you buy one of those small things in the shop, or just buy just regular salt is what I'm trying to say also, because in the stores they have different kind of salts. What is it called? Himalayan pink salt or something, which was crazy expensive. Just buy regular salt. Or if you this is just another tip, if you go to a restaurant and you get packages of salt like this, I always take them home. I find it a waste, because after you're done in a restaurant or other place that you eat, they will have to throw this away because of food and safety concern. So this will be thrown in the trash anyway. So I prefer to take them home and use them like in rice. So that way you can and save on salt to if we say. All right. The next thing I would say is to, like I said before, try to make your own food uh, for the nutritions, I would say, because yeah, nutritions are vitamins, minerals. First of all, try to grow your own food. So these are some leeks from the garden, some garlic from the garden, very healthy. Some onions that I'm going to put in my dinner later on. Those are all easy things to create and make in your own garden. So that way you can have your nutritions for you and your children during difficult times. It just takes some time and effort to do it yourself, but because you're on a budget, you will probably not do a lot of more expensive hobbies or go to places going out. You will not do that, so you will have more time to occupy yourself in a meaningful and how do you say this, pragmatic way in your own garden. Or if you're in an apartment, try to grow things inside, or try to grow them on a balcony in one of those vertical gardening or flower pots. Yeah, every meal you make yourself is a meal saved. So another thing you can do to get your nutritionals, like in plants, is foraging. Just when you go walking, take a walk outside. Just look for plants that are edible. There are not many people know know the plants that they can eat or what they contain. But if you read on some plants, you will learn that in your area there are a lot of plants and even weeds that are have some beneficial herbs or nutrients in them, like stinging nettles. We all think, stinging nettles are a weed, but these are contain a lot of vitamin C's that you can put into your dinner, your bouillons, your soups, or cook into your meats or potatoes. So yeah, that way you can get your nutritions. There are thousands and one plants out there that you can pick and get your nutritions from that. So foraging is another way to cook on a budget, is what I'm trying to say. Another thing, just another way, or just these small how do you say this, small packages of dried not staple foods, but I do not know the name in English, but some things like peas and linsen. Yeah, these are things that you can put inside of your dinners for additional nutrients and also for a filler, because yeah, you need to have that feeling of a full stomach and your children too. So the more you can mix with it, with that are more healthy or fulfilling, the better. So that you will not walk around all day going like, I have eaten, but I'm still hungry. That's not the thing we are looking for. We are talking about getting fulfilling meals that are perhaps a little bit bland, but yet again, I said you can spice them up with herbs. So that's another thing. Yeah, these are cubes, bouillon cubes. You can mix them with rice. You can cook with them. You can with other meals. So, or even in the oatmeal if you're that kind of person. But it's just an additional way to get more or calories, nutrition. So, and are also a cheap way to make it. Use them in soups to thickening them up. So bouillon blocks are also bouillon cubes. I mean, are also a good way to get that extra nutrients and calories. All right, I think we're around. Just one more thing I like to mention is honey. I know we're talking about cooking on a budget, but honey is one of those things I would not cheap out of, because real honey is almost its weight in gold worth, in my opinion. You can do a lot of things. It's healthy. It's beneficial. There are medical appliances for. So always have honey in your house. Just this is just some cheap way. Some yeah, not cheap, but it's a good way to get sugars in a nature way. If you do not can afford honey, I would just say buy regular sugar. Yeah, sugar is bad for you, but in times where you need the calories and the energy, just some white sugar can be a good addition to your bread, or even to cooking other things that you can caramelize is the term, I think, but it's what. All right. Uh, yeah, this was my video about cooking on a budget. Yeah, I hope I would ask you to please subscribe. It would help me a lot. Uh, I want to spread the word to help other people with this information. So I hope you learned something from it. Even if you can afford it, just stock put on a stockpile. Try to learn to how do you say this, to cook more simply and more cheaply. In that way, just so you have more money for other things that you can progress your survival in, is what I'm trying to say. So even if you can afford good food, health, yeah, the most healthy food, or just more expensive food, try to mentally make yourself compliant with it, to cook cheaply, for in case when times get bad, so you're not accustomed to it, to lose a lot of your it's not privileges, I would say, but your way of life is what I'm trying to say. Try to, because hard times are coming, so you need to learn to adapt to it. So if we now try to adapt to it more, like 25% to it towards it, yeah, then your mindset is already put to it, and also your children's mindset, because for the children it's a bigger shock, because they are not yet on that mental age of understanding that, oh, I used to get this, but now I only get this. What the hell is happening? They will get confused. They will perhaps get scared. So try to get them accustomed to it, is what I'm trying to say. I will not say to do this always, but make some days that you can say, today we're going to eat cheap. Today, or 2 days a week, we're going to eat like there is a crisis, just to lower the bills, to get mentally accustomed to it for the future. Those are ways that you can learn your children to adapt to that situation. Yeah, I think I'm around, so sorry for that. Yeah, subscribe, like. If you have other ideas to cook on a budget, leave it in the comments. I can learn from it. Other people can learn from it. Yeah, All right, thank you for watching and see you in the next video.